What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the BlockHash Podcast, your number one resource for all that is happening across the emerging tech space. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe wherever you listen to or watch this show. Today, I'm joined by Richard Jones, CEO of Bitline, here to talk about crypto and the intersection between that in the casino industry, casino chips, what Bitline is working on in terms of that front. So this will be a fun conversation here today. Richard, welcome to the show, man. Pleasure to have you on. How you doing?
I'm doing great today. Thank you very much. And Brandon, it's a pleasure to be on. Thank you very much for inviting me here and looking forward to having a great conversation about crypto and casinos.
Absolutely. This one's going to be a fun one because I'm partially based out of Las Vegas. So this is the first time I get to talk about casinos a little bit in terms of crypto. So I'm sure this will be a fun conversation. But to get it underway, would love to learn a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind sharing a bit about your background and maybe how you got into the crypto space. What excited you? What prompted your interest and wanted you to get involved?
Obviously, wherever we kind of end up in life is always a lot of different tangents and directions. And my entrance into the technology space was actually about 2013, roughly. And I made an investment, a personal investment with a company that was very specialized in the application development space. They were doing some very creative things there. Kind of ran across them in a consultation role for another business and was trying to identify some stars in the industries related to tech or emerging tech at that point. And this company definitely was suitable. So it was suitable enough. I decided I was going to put some of my own money into that company and buy a small piece. So that was kind of my first introduction into, say, like more of the hardcore tech world and development, software development, etc. How I became interested in Bitcoin is a pretty interesting story, strange story overall, but um, in working with this other tech company, I had the son of a person that we were actually building technology for came and he went on a rant of a lifetime in the most animated way possible about how Bitcoin in particular at that time was absolutely a game changer. The next thing, the amount of excitement that was coming from him made me feel excited and even maybe a little strange for him. It was like a little over the top. And I just remember the conversation. I remember hearing about it a little bit, obviously. So I knew kind of in the background a little bit about this was emerging. Thought about obviously looking into it, being in the tech space is something where you want to take a note of. Um, but anyways, long story short, that conversation came and went, and I think it was maybe 2 or 3 months later, Bitcoin takes its first kind of epic run, and you're looking at this chart go up, and eventually it goes back down. But it was, I think, an aha moment for a lot of people that were kind of around the tech, say banking, software development space, to really kind of take a look at that. That was huge news, I think, and so that was the first time I said, you know what, maybe I should take a deeper look into this, and maybe this very excited young gentleman, is onto something. So I started studying a little bit and started going through some of the manifesto, things surrounding, cryptocurrency, what actually it was. And I think there was definitely a lot of, you could say, a good body of work behind the legitimacy of it and why there was a need for something like this. So what was coming out at that time was kind of respecting a lot of what I was reading. It was, yeah, this is actually a very solid idea. And the next kind of available glamour, you could say, or what was kind of being put out there at the time was Ethereum. And I didn't really even know how to buy cryptocurrency at that time. Me and a group of friends, we collectively figured out because this is a little bit complicated if you have never done it before, how to even get some. So I made my first entrance into actually owning cryptocurrency around the time that Ethereum was about between the $3 to $8 range. And that was the only one that I got. Then little by little, kind of got more. So my first introduction was more about curiosity about cryptocurrency and kind of what it was and what it did, how that would intersect with other things that we were working on and with, but also too just kind of a little bit of the hype behind this being this new type of money and this new way of transacting. and that was also really attractive to me. So I got in really early from kind of just in owning. I never did any mining or anything like that, but so my work or my role in the tech space, and then just being around some people who were kind of hyping this up from a friend level and drew some interest and was keeping an eye on, and the charts started going a little bit crazy. So I just kind of got dragged into the foray at that time and in that way.
There you go. That sounds awesome. And then what kind of led from there to Bitline? What created that jump in Spark to do something in regards to to casino chips and that kind of realm?
Kind of, again, it's a lot of different business initiatives and kind of everything coalescing to that particular point. But at that time, the company that I own, we were developing software in the gaming space, social gaming, applications for third parties, etc. So, um, as a specific way of receiving payments, that wasn't on the map at the time. What was on the map was in the US gaming space was new at that time. And there was a lot of people entering into that space, and there wasn't a lot of actual software developers in that space that were regulated. But because of our work in applications, etc., and we had built some things for social gaming, um, we actually had front end interfaces that were way ahead of what was actually regulated gaming space. So I had a friend of mine actually invited me to speak with one of the larger casino groups. Um, he had an investment with doing broadcasting out of different casinos. And at that time, they were opening casinos. It was off strip at that time, but it was one of the new fabulous casinos in Las Vegas. So I actually met with his staff 2 days before their grand opening of that casino. They were discussing a lot of things they were trying to accomplish online with gaming, casino, sports, etc. And it crypto just kind of kept on creeping into the conversation. And so they were talking obviously about the types and sizes of bets that they like to take, or games, and sports, etc. Through the online mechanism. And here in this case, so anyways, unfortunately, I did not get the company get the contract with but I ended up with I did get invited to Grand Opening Vegas Casino, which is experience before. It was great. So while I was there, fortunately, crypto as a whole was on fun. I had a decent amount on my phone, and well, it's cryptocurrency. So yeah, let's go. And then there, it was a partner. It was a great time using and yeah, I don't know. How does that work? Just like a typical OTC? Do you guys have a wallet, barcodes? Like, how can I transfer some funds to you in order to get some chips to play a little bit? And he kind of looked at me with a pretty blank stare at that particular point and asked me kind of what I meant. I said, well, when we were discussing the software you mentioned several times that you guys were integrating crypto, I had crypto integrated. Well, it turns out that that integration was actually a third-party ATM machine that allowed for a maximum of $300. And it wasn't actually even in the casino. It was out the back door and around the side into the kind of, say, older strip area. So they obviously didn't take crypto. And I kind of started talking to him a little bit about crypto, and like all of us involved in the space, when we start talking to people who aren't really into crypto, the glazed over eyes look kind of came pretty quick. And then I realized he's also there celebrating a great event for their company. So I'll just leave this guy, poor guy, alone and not bore him, confuse him, or get him mad at me for discussing this particular topic at that time. And I took that home with me. But the following day when I woke up, um, I did talk to a group. It was another initiative that we had that was aligned to the banking and crypto space, building interoperability between traditional finance and banking and crypto finance and banking. and how to kind of make that a much more simpler platform for the entire globe to address, right? So taking away a lot of the education level. So I jumped on a call with them the very next day and it was kind of like, hey, you know what? There might be a little hole here. We're already building something that attends to this very specific need in a different way, but with a couple of small tweaks. I think we could actually present something that might have some legs and do it in a way that from, you say like a regulatory, from a compliance, and from a transaction monitoring point of view, we're actually doing a lot more work than the casino's doing. We're doing banking grade and you say almost law enforcement grade scanning of assets. And every casino, their job is obviously to bring in absolutely as much good money as they can and keep out absolutely as much bad money as they can. So we went to the drawing board, took what we had kind of started orchestrating and built it into a product that could actually function inside that environment according to the regulations. And we worked with a partner at that time, a payment partner in the space that we had good contacts with, and we brought that model to them. They're the largest in the US space, and pretty much their client list includes every casino on Strip except for maybe a couple. And they liked what they saw. 6 months later, we had a product. And at that particular point, now was about more going through the document side of things, the regulator side of things, and making sure that how everything worked and functioned under the hood um, was what was actually needed to be able to manage these types of transactions because this isn't an ATM machine or something. This is actually our product is backup house. So we're directly plugged into casino backup house. So casinos, crypto, banking, some of the most highly regulated spaces on the planet. So there was a lot of work to do on that end as well, making sure that we had everything buttoned up there. But we were able to actually produce a product in about 6 months, and then from there, kind of get through the rest of it. So currently, we do have a contract with that provider in the payment space. They are one of the largest on the planet, and very happy to have that relationship with them. And I think together we've been able to build a product that, as we move forward, and I think that cryptocurrency right now is really happy with what's coming out of Washington, a lot of the places we can kind of see that blockchain will kind of be for how we're going to be transacting for every state in the 5 to 10 years or so. So just a lot of things kind of aligned and happy accidents, the project that out there, crossover. So from start to finish, their line was essentially born to suit a very specific need for a very specific business.
Yeah, this is something that is very fascinating. How does it work exactly with Bitline? Like, if I want to get some Bitline casino chips, like, where do I go and how do I do that? And at the same time, like, is this something that's universal and I can drop into any casino and do this? Or are you guys partnered with a select few? Like, can I go down to the Win and start, playing? Like, what are some of the constraints and availability in terms of how it can be used?
The actual product itself was finally integrated into our payment partners backend probably about, I think it was about July of the previous year. And then obviously going through testing, et cetera. At that particular time, Bitline was deployed to roughly 700 to 800 casinos and about 2,500 casino cages across the United States. We also did some integrations with them situated towards the United Kingdom and some other global locations as well. So Bitline, as it stands right now, is actually sitting inside the casinos that you just mentioned. With regards to the payments company, anytime that they roll out a new product into the casino environment, and they're a publicly traded company, they've been around for ages, and like I said, they're one of the juggernauts in that industry. They basically sign an addendum with each casino to actually put the product live. The good part is obviously there's no integration required. It's actually built into what the casino is sitting on today. So they can say, hey, we can now take cryptocurrency, um, just a simple signature to an addendum in the contract with that particular provider. And they're able to start to move into training SOPs and standard operating procedures, training, start to finish. So It's actually pretty easy at this point for any casino to sign on to the product. And we did do our initial live launch and did actually have the first crypto transaction in the history of the world, but in the history of the United States and the regulated space, into the back house of a casino. So right now, that's available with Durant, the Choctaw Nation, in their Durant casino location. That's the pilot location. They have several locations that they'll be expanding this product outward. And since that launch, there was a lot at the beginning of this, nobody really wanted to be the first one. And because you're touching something that's relatively sensitive to gambling regulators. And obviously, everybody wanted to make sure that this was something safe for them to do, kind of how it works. So now that we've had transaction one, post that transaction, we've been working with and getting into contracts and getting documented with a lot of the major casino groups on the strip, as well as other tribal groups, etc. So post transaction number one, when somebody finally decided to be that first one to transact, things have gotten really busy for us.
Do you need like a wallet to connect to Bitline? Like, how does it work in terms of like the purchasing part of this? Like, I'm just thinking from like a user standpoint, like in terms of how do I acquire these casino chips? Like, let's say I'm able to go to one of these casinos or on reservation or wherever it may be, where you guys are partnered and they can, participate. Can they buy it with like USDC, or is it with Bitcoin, or is it on a specific chain with specific tokens? Like, where's that accessibility kind of lie?
Sure. In order to address the system as a whole, the casino patron or the customer would need to register an account with Bitline, obviously first. And once they have an account with Bitline, at that particular point, they can fund their Bitline account from an external wallet, exchange, cold storage, etc. Once they've done that, and obviously there's huge processes behind the KYC, AML to make sure it's the right person. And then there's a huge amount of transaction monitoring going on to make sure that, this is actually clean crypto. As I said, we're in this highly regulated space, so we want to go the extra mile. So we're using law enforcement grade tools to basically make sure that what we're working with is good to go. If it's not, we just simply return it right back. It doesn't never actually able to be used to create any transaction with anybody. We'll just return it to the user and say thank you very much. That's also a process that does occur on every single transaction. So even if you're the most famous person in the world and your first 10 transactions in the world isn't, say, of the greatest cleanliness, we would still return that crypto back to you and tell you that we wouldn't be able to transact with that. So once you've gone through that process, you can actually create the transaction with the casino. Then at that particular point, you can create the transaction with the participating casino. And when that transaction is presented to the casino, they're able to look and say, do we want to accept this or not? So it goes into that pending status. Once it gets past that pending status, you'll be able to, you'll get a notification that will tell you, hey, you're now able to finalize this transaction. So it's kind of a little back and forth there. We send it to the participating casino. The participating casino sends it back to the user. The user says, okay, I want to do this. The client can walk away from that transaction at that point. You can just say, you know what, I want to cancel this, or et cetera, go back into his Bitline wallet. And then he or she can move it back to their external wallet or do with it what they want to. So there's kind of that, okay, first an approval. Approval's good. Now I can go ahead and continue with my transaction. When I do that, what it does is it generates a barcode, a QR, and that QR is used to walk up to the casino cage. And at the casino cage, the cashier will kind of go through the same thing. They'll take a look and say, hey, this was Richard, but now there's a lady in front of me holding a QR code. So there's some checkoffs that they have, and also within each casino, they have their own standard operating procedures, their own rules, et cetera, to follow as well. So some of that's built in on their side as well to make sure that this is a person that we can attend to. For example, if somebody's on a self-exclusion list, they're not supposed to be gambling at all in the casino, not using crypto, not using real money, not using anything, right? They've self-excluded. So they're looking at things and double checking their databases as well. But once all that's good to go, just that simple QR, they're able to get casino chips or in some cases, a lot of them use also nowadays the vouchers where they're giving a cash value voucher to the user that they can put in a slot machine or take to the tables as well. But they're basically given the liquidity to play at that particular moment. So from the point of registering to the point of getting however much money the casino has an appetite for in terms of playing liquidity, the first time would probably be about a 15-minute start to finish process before using a network. So if you use the Bitcoin network, it would take you a little bit longer. Um, if you use a stablecoin network, obviously it's going to be pretty much instant. So that kind of depends on each user and which network they're choosing. Um, but after that actually occurs, the first time you're making transactions in a matter of a minute, 2 minutes. And the process at the cage with the cashier is actually it takes less time to go through than what they do with, say, a check or some of the other traditional fiat instruments. So we're right there and or beating the speed and efficacy of a traditional casino transaction at the cage or with the cashier inside the casino.
Interesting. Yeah, I read a little bit about your guys' partnership actually with TRM Labs and how you guys were working on transparency monitoring. Is that your primary partner that you were working with on that? And then if so, like how is that kind of gone thus far?
Yeah, we actually have several different providers that we're working with from the KYC, AML perspective, TRM, and also to in the background we do have Chainalysis as well. They're working more along you could say that role is the transaction monitoring aspect of it. So they're looking at it more in a traditional banking point of view. Obviously, first we need to vet the person. So we're using different services there to take a look at thousands of databases globally, even adverse media, all the above to make sure that the person that we have in front of us is somebody that we want to do business with. So those are the first checks. Once they pass those checks, then the transaction monitoring aspect of it is the second part. And so we're using those types of tools to walk the blockchain front to back, and make sure that the funds that we're receiving are definitely clean enough, clean, et cetera. I haven't touched anything like terrorism or arms sales or any kind of nefarious activity in order for it to be able to be transacted with any casino that's on the network.
What do you think the future of this kind of looks like? Because obviously the crypto industry has been very intertwined with gambling and online casinos and stuff like that for like a long time, and it's a natural fit for it. It just makes it much more easy and seamless for a lot of people, and it's really big today still, even the online betting world and the prediction markets, like everything from stake.com to Polymarket. Like it was big during the U.S. election last year, and like there's people love to wage and gamble and bet. I'm just curious, like on this side, because since you're working on it so much, where you kind of see this going, like if you see it translating naturally to the gambling industry at large, and then what some of those positive and negative benefits might be on both sides. We've talked a lot about the regulatory front. I'm just kind of curious how it could evolve beyond that at some point.
I'd like to kind of approach that question with a few, I guess, different, maybe some statements and also to answer you. First and foremost, obviously, crypto's been involved in the gaming space for quite a while, and you had some people come in really hard, like Stake, etc. Stake has regulation in some spaces, and they're a little, say, more fuzzy in terms of regulation in other places where they might be taking clients, whether that be Latin America, etc. So there definitely has been an intersection between crypto and casinos in the past. Crypto is not a stranger to the casino floor. There are crypto ATMs inside casinos at the current time in Las Vegas as we speak. And also you have some companies like PayPal too that are accepting crypto. There's a flip over. It's the difference between those and us is that we are integrated directly into back of house. And so this is the first time that's ever been done. And what that does is allows a different type or a different level of transaction sizing to occur and outside of banking hours as well. So yes, there definitely is crypto in casinos and offshore. Crypto is basically a direct to back of house However, the big difference between that, and I think one of the things that's important to understand about the Bitline product for the user in this case, is a benefit for the casino to provide the liquidity. But in this relationship with the user, we're actually entering into a type of transaction with the user where there's not a taxable event based off the sale of the actual digital asset itself at current day. So the person's able to access the liquidity using the actual digital asset, but they can actually remit using or selecting another asset in the fiat space, or say later, depending on legislation in the stablecoin space, that would allow them to be able to close that transaction without actually facing a taxable event. So if you're sending 50K to stake from your Coinbase account, um, that's one story and that happens. But when you're actually constructing a transaction with us, it's a much different story, and you're not going to have to worry about the IRS implications of the transactions that you're making direct to, say, an offshore, or whatever that might look like. So one of the big benefits of Bitline for the user is actually that they can manage their transactions in a way that they maintain the value of their crypto, their Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever that might be as well, which is attractive for those of us that like to hold. And then also too, post-transaction, regardless of the result, then they're avoiding what would be a potential taxable event for them as well. So those are two of the actual nice features of the product itself, and working from the user, from the client, all the way through to the casino itself. In terms of the casinos themselves, they're settled through fiat consistently. They're actually never touching cryptocurrency at all.
Do you think it'd be helpful for the federal government to have better or more clear legislation on this topic in particular, or is this more relegated to local jurisdictions, whether it's states, reservations within states? Like, what would be more helpful in terms of creating more clear guidance and frameworks for being able to do this with crypto and gambling?
At the heart of that question is that they kind of made that decision when they kind of pushed the decision for gambling to each and every individual state. So any operator essentially is all kind of operating off of 50 different licenses, 50 different tax regimes. So it's a little hectic, I guess, for the operators themselves and also some of the other providers as well. Payments, product, and all the above. So we're kind of in a place, just by the way that the gambling laws are constructed, at least when you're discussing the United States, to where it has to be a state by state regulated thing. There's no like a not an overt federal law that would cover this, since that's kind of been passed to them to regulate, to self-regulate on a state by state basis. So in that part, that's kind of the direction it would have to go. With regards to the tribal casinos, they're lightly different. They still have tribal councils and they still have to work with the local government in terms of what's acceptable and unacceptable with regards to payments, crypto, casino games, and all the above. So tribal might be a little bit easier in some cases, but at the same time, like I said, when you're going into Nevada, you need to work with the gaming commission there. If you're going into New Jersey, the gaming commission there. And so that's, part of kind of what makes the whole industry a little bit complex and unique in some ways, but it's just kind of the world that we live in with gambling in the US.
Have you guys explored this overseas at all, or are you primarily U.S. focused? Because I imagine there's a lot of opportunity in other countries as well that are a little bit more lenient.
We have started to work a little bit in some jurisdictions, but at the onset of this product, for us, it was always important to understand this is a highly legitimate, highly regulated product. And so we didn't want to jump into some spaces that would make that look different, or have a different effect in terms of the credibility of the product. So we've specifically worked inside the United States. We also have some conversations going right now as well with some of the most prestigious casinos in Europe, the UK and Europe directly, because they are very similar to the United States in terms of how they look at legislation and how these two interact. So we did decide to not go to, say, more far out jurisdictions that are like, hey, whatever, just kind of bring it on. we made an attempt to avoid that.
So what's on the horizon for Bitline this year? When can I drop down at the Win or the Aria and start gambling with my Bitline crypto chips?
You can go to the Choctaw Duran Casino now and do that. As far as the deployment of the product is inside the other casinos, and our payments partner is actually working with a lot of them right now to start to put these live. So I would assume before the end of the year, you'll definitely be able to work with Bitline to get casino liquidity in several different casinos for sure. Beyond that, obviously our objective is a global one. So, if Brandon flew into Macau at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. You have no access to banks, you have nothing, but if the casino has an appetite for it, we could put $1 billion of playing liquidity in your hand within a matter of minutes, then effectively. And that's obviously the beauty of blockchain as a service, blockchain as a product. So we're leveraging the best of that world to be able to provide something that's very useful to the casino business itself, as well as to the customers who are looking to access that type of liquidity.
And where can people go to keep up with all this stuff? Like as you guys have more updates and announcements that are rolling out, is the website the best place to go? Do you have socials? Do you have a blog? Do you have a community? Where would you send people?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're pretty active with regards to socials and just updating. Obviously there's kind of a lot of news floating around about this and the different launches that will be coming up. So obviously in general news, we are there. The website is bitline.io. I'm easy to go there, get some information. We're active on X, I would say, probably most active there. That's bitline underscore IO. And then LinkedIn for things more related to business, et cetera. LinkedIn, obviously, with Bitline IO. So, but yeah, we're active in all spaces, and you could always find out information about us there for sure.
Awesome. Where can people connect with you too? Are you also on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn as well, under Richard Jones. So for Bitline, I don't have an active X handle for the company though, but at the current time, I can be found there as well.
Richard, appreciate the conversation today. It's very fascinating talking about this intersection because it's one of the oldest, I think, use cases in crypto, dating all the way back to the very beginning. Everyone was trying to figure out how to either do two things. They were either trying to look for unscrupulous things online or they were trying to gamble. But it's cool to see that come full circle today, and how well regulated and established it's becoming, and all the great work that you guys are doing, helping to pioneer that as well. So keep it up, man, and keep me updated as new things come out and you have new updates or rollouts or new casinos that come online that you guys are working with or that are available to play. Would love to have you back on and continue to follow your journey.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, what you brought up earlier, and one of the questions that I answered, I think ultimately this is where casinos really need to be because I can walk into the win tomorrow with 30,000 in cash and maybe I sold a weapon out front to get that. When a dollar where it starts and where it finishes in its history, it's got a serial number, but it might have stopped over here to buy a part of a Ferrari in Italy, and then it was in Budapest, and then it was in Russia, then it was in I don't know, Mexico, doing whatever it was doing, nobody really knows. And the big difference between the story of that dollar and how it made its way into the front of, say, the Wynn Casino, and the story between how that cryptocurrency made its way around the world and what it did and how it did it, there's full transparency. So I really don't see how in the future any kind of business or industry that's very much concerned about source of funds, how something got from start to finish, or the person that's using it, what were they involved in, um, at least in terms of the transaction monitoring. For the first time, you have absolute clarity. There's no doubt even this thing was mined, whichever currency it was, to when it was broken up and what it saw, who it saw it, how it was used. It's all there. The history's entirely there. So cryptocurrency, blockchain as a technology, throwing out the crypto aspect of it, is really kind of almost a godsend for industries like this. So anybody who wouldn't be transacting more this way in the future, I don't see cash going away in full, but in terms of most methods, mechanisms, etc., this is actually, I think, the one thing that this industry is needed more than anything else. So stepping away from its initial beginnings where everybody thought that crypto wasn't traceable and that, Silk Road and these things associated with it. What we've really come to find out is it's completely the opposite. So for any business that's actually looking for full transparency in their transaction monitoring and in their compliance roles as companies, this is absolutely one of the best things to have ever happened to the industry, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, especially in terms of compliance and transparency. I really think cash is just outdated. Um, I think stablecoins will really take that front at some point in crypto, especially because it's on a public ledger and it's all there. Like you mentioned, you can see it, you can verify it. And, there's no better, I think, medium of exchange, especially for the gambling industry when you're trying to, eliminate some of those unscrupulous activities or bad actors or wherever money may stem from at some point, laundering. Like it solves a lot of issues. So I'm definitely very optimistic about it.
Yeah, I think blockchain's role in gambling as a whole, casino business as a whole, has a long way to go. But I can see stablecoin ecosystems that kind of help casinos to optimize their businesses. I can see like right now, one of the big things in the casino space is the efficacy of random number generators, whether that be online or whether that be hard packed into the machine. Who are the companies that are certifying all these things? But if these products were even reporting out to blockchain, not the user information, but at least the game information on a pretty much ongoing basis, then there wouldn't even be a necessity for that because the whole world could see that, hey, these slot machines that are situated within a Wynn casino, they're mathematically operating the way that they're advertised to operate. So I think blockchain, apart from the payment stuff that we're stepping into that now, I think blockchain as a technology definitely will intersect a lot more with the casino space coming up, and I think in a positive way for everybody involved.
Absolutely. Again, appreciate the conversation, man. Glad that we were able to get this organized and to have this convo. Again, it's really, I think, an important topic. So keep me updated again on everything that's going on with Bitline here in the near future, and we'll definitely find a way to do another episode as things come out. And would love to do something in person too. Like maybe I can come visit you, or you can come to Vegas. Like we can sit in a casino and talk about this. I think that'd be a fun background. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're here in the development. I'm in the development studio now, working on some product enhancements stuff. It'll be coming out in full application mode, so a lot of cool things coming up for the product. But for me as well, would definitely love to get out there and see you. Might be out there for G2E around October, so I don't know if you're around at that time frame, but that also might be a good time to hook up and kind of see where things are. And I really appreciate the time that you've given us here today to talk about the product. Um, it's a very specific topic in this particular case. We built a very specific product. Um, but beyond that, I think we built something that I think does a lot of good things for the industry, for both the casinos and for the patrons as well. No more worries about do you have to get a credit check, how fast do you have to get it, if you want markers. Like we've really done something that allow instant access to liquidity for all the above. So we're looking forward to making a big splash and helping out every side of the counter, so to speak. So thank you again, and appreciate the availability and the time you're taking with me today. Sure.
You're very welcome. Yeah, keep me up to date. Would love to do this again with you sometime here in the near future. And yeah, we'll talk soon, man. Enjoy your week.
All right. Phenomenal. You as well. Take care.